Welcome to another episode of Thinking of Quitting, where I talk to people about their alternative careers and lifestyles, about money, meaning, and how they make it all work. This week, I sat down with Tim. He is a professor of outdoor leadership at the Central Oregon Community College and also a seasoned outdoorsman and has a wealth of knowledge about jobs in the outdoor industry. We talked about degrees versus certificates and what kind of opportunities they can provide when it comes to the outdoor industry. We also talked about all the different kinds of jobs that are available in the outdoor industry, how to turn those things into a career, and whether you'd really want to. We talked about the benefits and the advantages of getting to travel the world and work these adventurous jobs, and also the downsides and why this type of work might not be for everybody. So let's get into it. So what does outdoor leadership mean, and what kind of careers does that prepare someone for?
So outdoor leadership is sort of this overreaching topic, right? So it's an overreaching concept or discipline that entails a variety of other disciplines outdoors. Okay. So students will study the history of outdoor recreation and education, mostly in North America. We'll study risk management of outdoor activities, the ethics of outdoors, everything from, overuse of areas to stewardship and things like that. And then a whole part of it too is learning how to teach, lead, guide, facilitate programs with clients, guests, students. And so that gets into just a general category of how to be a teacher, how to be a facilitator. And then students get into specific activity areas. So if they want to go into the rock climbing, whitewater rafting, they develop a set of guide level skills for each of those specific activities. So students will go from our program. Students go to a variety of places when they leave. There's options to go on to a 4-year degree right here in Bend at OSU Cascades. So we send a lot of students over to OSU where they continue their bachelor's after completing their associates here. A lot of students will just do a year. So we offer a certificate, a 1-year certificate program as well, where students can just come study outdoor leadership solely and then have that certificate of completion.
And compared to your regular degree, how hands-on is this? Because it sounds like something you really need to be practicing.
So it's pretty, our program is pretty experiential, probably at an extreme level for programs on campus. So we do a cohort model. Our students start in spring. It's the only time you can start the program is in the fall, in September. And it's the same group of students fall, winter, spring. The fall term is unique in that we're outdoors every day. We have an outdoor classroom here on campus that we meet at. We don't go indoors for the entire term. And we do 2 expeditions. We do a canoe expedition in October, and then we do a snowshoe expedition in December. So a lot of time outdoors in the fall term. And then winter, we kind of go back to more traditional classroom, but very intense, small group projects. And winter term, we say that's when things get real for our students. We put them in front of clients. We do an outdoor school with a local 4th grade class. And then we do another expedition where our students teach and lead the expedition. And then we move into spring term, where we focus on sort of the specific skills of being a guide or instructor in rock climbing, mountain biking, alpine climbing, whitewater rafting, and canoeing.
And they do all of those? They don't pick one?
No, they pick, we say they have to pick 2.
Okay.
And some students will pick 3 or 4. We've never had anyone do all 5 in a year.
Okay.
That'd be quite a bit, but they could. It's possible, but
it probably helps to specialize a little bit, just
and it's just those classes are really, there's a lot to them. It's 1 day a week where we're in the field for 7 hours, and so if you're doing 2 or 3 of those a week, that's a full week. It's a full week on top of some other classes they have to take. So it's pretty rare that we get students to do all 5, but we get most through many of them.
Yeah, and I'm curious, the students who are coming in and doing this, do they usually already know what they want to do, or they're just like, I kind of like the outdoors, or do they come in not even knowing and they meet you and you're like, hey, you ever knew this was it?
It's a mix of both. So we'll get fresh out of high school. I have 2 students right now who just graduated last June from high school and wanted to be in Bend going to school. And I like to tell students of that kind that our program is the big carrot, right? So it's like, go to college, figure out what you want to do, come do our program for a year. It might not be what you want to do, but you'll get a lot out of it. I'm almost starting to think of calling it a gap year for a lot of young people, where they just come, study outdoor leadership, develop really strong connections with their peers, and walk away in a year with a skill set that, it's a great, if you're a college student, you're 19 years old, summertime, outdoor jobs are great. And so after 1 year, you're walking away with a certificate to start working at least in the summer, and then seasonally through the school year, through the winter term here, with a professional level certificate while still going to college. So we get those people, fresh out of high school, just figuring it out. And then because of the certificate that we now offer, we're getting return students. So we're getting students who already have bachelor's and master's, and we've had students who have PhDs come back and just study.
Just want something a little different.
Yeah, they just want the piece of outdoor education that they get. And so they'll come just for the fall, winter, spring, and that's it. They just study outdoor leadership and then move on their way from that.
And I grew up in the Midwest, and I imagine we have some of these programs, but I didn't know about them growing up, especially at community colleges. It seems like a really amazing program. It seems like something I would have loved when I was younger, would have known about. Or now, I guess, as you were saying. Yeah, never too late. Do you feel like this industry is growing or becoming more popular, or has it always been?
It's hard to say. I think it's definitely growing. There's a lot of move towards newer types of programs. When people think of outdoor education, they think of young people going rock climbing and such. But as we see, the baby boomers and then the Gen X generations coming to retirement, baby boomers are in retirement, but as Gen X comes into retirement and have disposable cash and time, we're seeing more programs that maybe accommodate those populations. I have a lot of students who want to go start their own companies. My advice is it's really hard to do, because wherever you want to go to do that, there's already a lot there that you're going to be competing with. And in the United States, we operate on public lands, and there's a lot of limitations to what we can do. So I know Bend is a hard place to start outdoor companies because of just there's so many that are already using all the resources.
Just oversaturated, and then it's hard because you don't want to displace like grassroots or family operations that are going on, which is fair. I get it. I want to talk just like a little bit more about you and what brought you here. What brought you to teaching outdoor leadership?
Oh, what taught me?
You've had a whole career in the outdoors. It seems like before this.
I was teaching. I was teaching at a private boarding school doing adventure programming. So during the school year, I would travel with students, and then in the summer we would do adventure camps in Northern California. And just decided I wanted to have more knowing. So I went to graduate school, went back to school, and ended up in higher ed as just a part of my grad program, doing a practicum project, which was at OSU Cascades, and started their outings program. And so that's how I got into higher ed, just kind of got my foot in the door, and slowly did that for a year. And then they offered me classes to teach. So then I started teaching classes at OSU Cascades while I was running the outings program, and just kind of built my career that way. And then this position opened up, and was lucky enough to be offered it. Yeah.
Did you ever do the seasonal work thing?
I did, but I was already teaching in higher ed at the time. So I had a summer job. So every summer for about 15, I think I did 15 summers, I did part-time work guiding on Mount Shasta.
Nice.
So I got a taste of that. But really I never did the full chasing seasons. I probably would have chased winter if I had done anything, but I've been in education ever since. I really kind of started this path.
Okay. And growing up, was the outdoors big for you? Did you see yourself going to something like this?
The outdoors was big for me, but I never thought about going into the outdoors.
Professionally.
I was raised, thinking like, what professions are you going to go into? Are you going to be a doctor, a lawyer? What are the other options? Teacher.
Which you are.
Which I am. So I was kind of going that track, right? And thinking about those, and then just stumbled upon this field in my mid-20s. Kind of figured it out and saw people doing this, and started going this path.
That was when you started at the school, the private school doing that?
So I started that in 98. I started teaching. So I taught high school during the school year, traveling. So it was a traveling program where we'd go do a 2 to 3 week trip somewhere, with a group of 12, 14 boys, and explore an area and experience an area, and then teach the high school curriculum around wherever we were traveling.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the summers, I got a lot of experience just guiding, teaching, rock climbing, rafting, caving, canoeing, backpacking, mountain climbing. And then after that, I started higher ed, working in higher ed.
Okay.
And then once I was in higher ed, then I started guiding on Mount Shasta.
Mm-hmm. It's not, do a lot of your students, I guess, think about going in a path like yours, being a teacher or going into higher ed? Because I don't think of the outdoors in higher ed.
So a lot of my students will, what I tell them is that very few of them will have long careers in the outdoors, but they're going to use what they learn wherever they go. I have former students who work here on campus, and they still refer to things they learned in our program, and they work in other areas. But a lot of our students, especially with OSU Cascades here, where there's the option to do a Master's of Arts teaching, so all students who will go on, finish their bachelor's in, they might do their associate in outdoor leadership, and then they'll go do their bachelor's at OSU in some other discipline, finish that, and then go into the Master's of Arts teaching, and then get into K through 12 education. I have had a bunch of other students who have gone on to get their master's in counseling. And gone into wilderness therapy and do that. And then maybe they do wilderness therapy for a while and then go into private therapy. A lot of students will go that route. I've had just a couple students who've gotten into higher ed. So yeah, I think, for my students, just, they think I'm just going to go and be a whitewater raft guide. And then they come in and realize, oh, there's so much other stuff. I can go into the Forest Service, I can go to BLM, I can go into, museums and do interpretive programming. I can go and kind of chase seasons. I can go down to South America and be a ski patroller, and coming back up here in the winter and being a ski patroller. So there's a lot more options, I think. And for students who come into our program, I think that's one of the big takeaways. Just they don't realize how much they can go do if they want.
I think that's something I'm still learning, and I know a lot of my friends in seasonal work, you get to a certain point or a certain age, and there's kind of this moment of, do I need to get a real job, or can I do the seasonal thing?
Right.
Or is there a way to do something like you did, where it's more of a full-time job and a little bit more solid, but still doing it? And it seems like there's a lot more paths than we've.
Yeah, I think there are. Yep.
Does this program focus on kind of exposing people to the variety of things you can do?
So I try to have visitors come in, and I have them speak specifically about their career path, because that's what I want my students to hear about. Like, well, how did you get into this? Because there's no clear cut, absolute way to do this. And so for students to hear about, people who've made careers in the outdoors, and maybe they didn't go to school and study this stuff, and or maybe they did, or they kind of how they fell into a certain organization and then kind of gravitated into a certain position in that organization. So there's all these different pathways and means that people have used to get to where they are in the outdoors, and there's no cut and dry way to do it. And so it's helpful for my students to hear that all the people who visit will support the idea that going through a program, it gives them a hands up. It's not just, you got your certificate, now you're good to go. It's, you got your certificate, now it's when you really start to learn things. Yeah.
And I think that's an amazing thing about, higher ed in general, but especially in the outdoors, is that you're teaching, but you're also learning, and you're constantly growing your own skills.
Yeah.
And that just seems like a beautiful thing to do with a lifetime, in my opinion, at least. But on that same note, I'm curious, I've talked with previous guests who do seasonal work about whether you really need a degree or certificate, or, if you should just go and do like a NOLS type certificate, or what the best way to get into the outdoors is. And like you said, there's no clear path, but obviously you might be a little biased to some of these more formalized systems. So what's your opinion on all that?
Well, I am biased towards the degree option, only because I think it offers a more comprehensive knowledge set. So the Knowles course, the Knowles leadership course, or going through a Knowles certificate, is really focused on sort of what we call the hard technical skills, and some leadership stuff and all that. But the degree offers, it offers a couple things. One is a bigger breadth of content. So we get deep into risk management. We get deep into ethics, which I think every student should be studying. And then the other thing that our program, and it's not because we're good at it, it's just the way it's designed, is because we're at a college and students study 10 weeks in the fall, 10 weeks in the winter, 10 weeks in the spring, they just get way more out of it because they're not going into, a 30-day course and learning everything in 30 days, while they're also backpacking and having to like take care of themselves and do all that. So just the format of the degree, I think, offers a lot more for learning. I do think that's a good balance, that you need a balance of those things. A degree isn't just alone. You need to have certain certifications, certainly medical certifications necessary. And then on top of that, we say that now you got to go get your experience. And so the way I kind of sell it to students is that the learning curve when you finish your degree for students in our program is a lot steeper than for someone who's just going through it and learning through experience. And so we'll see students who might get hired with someone else at the same time, and after 5 years they're advanced in the company much further because the education has allowed them to kind of excel through steps, within an organization.
Absolutely. Do you have an opinion on schools? I guess, again, there'd be an allegiance, but I know you also went to Prescott, which is known to be kind of the outdoor school. Does it matter where you get your certificates, really, or your degrees?
I don't think so. I've never really come across Prescott does have a reputation for being a very well-established outdoor. I think their program is adventure education, although they may have changed that. And so there is some benefit to having that degree. In this field, if you say you went to Prescott, people kind of know that they have certain expectations of what you'll be able to do and understand. But I think for entry level, it's people getting started in the field. I don't think it really matters too much. If you went to COCC or OSU Cascades or SOU, I think, unlike some other disciplines where maybe, having a medical degree from Harvard might get you into more places, I don't think it really matters too much.
Yeah, it seems like, this happens with me on all these interviews. By the end, I'm like, I need to do this thing. But I do live in Bend. Yeah. So I'm like, how much does it cost to go to this program?
So I think if you just did our program, our 1-year program, our certificate, it'd be like about $3,600, I think is what they say. And that doesn't include, having to purchase books and materials and supplies. It's just tuition.
Is it a full-time? Or can it be done part-time?
It's full-time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so students go for 16 credits in the fall, 12 credits in the winter. And in the spring, they do at least, what do they do? At least 9 credits, a minimum of 9 credits in the spring, up to 15 if they want to, or up to 18 if they want to. And then that's also a time when they can do some other classes if they need to do another class for their certificate. So yeah, it is full-time.
Cool. That sounds like an amazing way to spend a year. You see potentially looking into the future, any significant directions of growth, or it's just always going to be here? Or is AI going to take our outdoor jobs? I
don't know how AI will impact it.
It's like a tricky one, but
I think it'll have some impact on it. But more, I think less on the programming and the actual experiences in the outdoors, and more like administrative business side of things. So I think it's pretty resistant to AI. Overall, people are still going to want to be led and guided and taught by other humans eventually. So I think that's a good side of it. As far as like trends and how things are progressing, The biggest one is just, especially since the pandemic, is just, and we see this in Central Oregon, is how many people are going to the outdoors now. Areas where we used to go teach and see no one, we see people all the time, and just there's a lot more people using areas than ever before. And of course, Bend's gotten bigger and everything, but I think people are just doing more stuff outdoors, which is a mixed bag, right? So one side is there's more people using areas, the degradation of areas that we go to because there's more use. But people who want to do more of this stuff is somewhat of a sense of job security, that there'll be people who want to go out and experience stuff. And so, yeah, that's probably the biggest trend, I think, is just the increase in use in the outdoors.
Yeah, definitely. And we kind of touched on this, but people talk a lot about or think about outdoor seasonal work as kind of like the main outdoor industry, I think, sometimes. And I guess what would your response be to someone who's like, oh, I do seasonal work, but someday I got to get, a real job?
A real job. No, you don't have to. You can keep doing seasonal jobs. If anything, your body might break down. It is a very physically demanding, aspects of it are very physically demanding. But yeah, I know folks who still guide mountains in their 60s, and still doing it, still kind of spending summers here and winters in Europe and springs in Japan and doing all that. So it's possible to do all that. The joke in the outdoor industry is that when you get a real job, you have to move inside. And so you'll talk to a lot of folks who've done the field stuff for a while, and then maybe in that same organization move into administrative roles. Either people buy into the company or take on supervisory roles and start doing more indoor work while still working for an outdoor company. That's pretty typical for a lot of folks as they evolve in their careers, is to be less outdoors and move indoors, which no one gets into this field for, but it's absolutely necessary for organizations to run, and someone's got to do it. And sometimes it's nice because it's more 9 to 5, and for a lot of folks, maybe that's their path, that they want to have families and weekends off and things like that.
That's a great perspective to know that you can change. You can stay in your industry of the outdoors, but that you can move from crazy expedition seasonal to, seems like, a more stable, healthy life that fits your life as you age. Yeah. What are the best benefits of having a career in the outdoors?
Well, you get to be outdoors a lot, which is fun. You get to experience there are times when I've been in the outdoors and really wished I wasn't in the outdoors. But that's part of it, just having that as a routine part of your life, knowing that you're going to be outside. Benefits, you typically get to live and work in places that are very cool. It's pretty rare to be, you might be based out of like a big city like Seattle or Portland, but your work is going to be in the national forest, or on the mountains and such, or on the rivers, and so you get to be in beautiful places a lot. And the other thing is just, I can't even imagine the amount of people I've met. I was just thinking the other day about all the students I've taught. I teach avalanche safety here at the college. I've been doing that for 20 years. And I was just trying to imagine the other day, I think I've taught over 500 students. I can't even remember all the students. But, every time I teach that class, I'm always amazed at just how great, you get to meet these great people that want to learn about the outdoors and experience it more. And so I think that's one of the major benefits, is that you're inevitably going to just meet a lot of great people.
Yeah, absolutely. And from all those jobs you've seen people do, or your students go into, or that you've done yourself, what do you think are the top 3 best jobs in the outdoor industry for a career in the outdoors?
Top 3.
In your opinion. Super opinionated.
So it's hard to say. It depends on the individual. It depends on where they are in their life, and what they want to be experiencing. And that's the thing, is I think that separates, a job in the outdoor field is it's what do you want to go experience, and then go do that. It's not just like what the job is. So if you want to go climb mountains and guide guide on mountains, and go experience that. So Uh, so probably the top three things are just, what's your lifestyle? Where do you want to be? And what do you want to get out of it? Right. So, I'll advise students on, yeah, where in the world do you want to go experience and go look for a job there. And then experience that place and learn about that place and become an expert in that place. Or what do you want to do if it's a specific activity, and then, go to as many places as you can doing that.
Yeah, what a beautiful way to get to shape your life. Because I think my friends in the seasonal realm really do think more that way than a lot of people get to. I have a friend who's just, we guided in hiking and kayaking and stuff together. And she was like, I love bears. I want to be a bear guide. I don't know what it means. I just want to be around the bears.
Yeah.
And now she does that.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's such a cool way to get to move through the world. Something else I feel like a lot of young people are in the outdoors, and like we talked about, it can be hard on your body doing certain jobs and things like that. Does it work as a second wave career? Do you ever have people come in here who, are want to move into a new job altogether?
Right now, half my students are probably on their second careers. Many of them, I have several veterans who are finishing up their military commitments, coming into our program and thinking about that. But yeah, I've had a lot of students who've come in and they've done other work elsewhere, maybe had a career doing something else completely and just totally changed directions. Yeah, I think the oldest students we've had in our program have been early 60s. Had a couple students in that age range just wanting to come in and study this and kind of take what they can from it and apply it to either a new career path or volunteer jobs they wanted to do. Yeah, I think it's totally viable to make a career, midlife career path, career change, and come into this field.
Yeah. What's your advice to anyone in the outdoor industry that's struggling or feeling burnt out or thinking of leaving?
If for folks who feel burnt out, I would say just go find something new, do something different. It's easy to get burnt out when you're doing the same route all the time and you're guiding on the same river all the time. And so in that aspect, the seasonal flow of the career breaks up that burnout for a lot of folks. Like, I just got 3 months here on this river. By the end of 3 months, kind of feeling burnt out, but then it's like, okay, I got a month off and then I'm off to, the mountains to be on skis or whatever. So that's kind of nice in that respect, that the seasonal work kind of addresses the burnout for a lot of folks. I know the mountain guides that I've known for years, they have their seasons. They have their alpine climbing seasons on Mount Hood and Mount Shasta, and then it goes into their rock climbing season, and then it goes into their avalanche teaching season, and then it goes into their Japan guiding season, and then it goes into their Europe guiding season, and so it's nice in that regard that the burnout just kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah, I love a seasonal job. I think it just works better for some people's brains.
Yeah.
Maybe not everybody. But
no, not everybody.
Some people, they're just built for it, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Last thing, what is the best piece of life advice you either have heard or have to share?
That's a question I couldn't get to. I don't know. I was trying to think of the best piece of advice I'd ever been given. I couldn't come up with anything. It doesn't have to
be the best. It can just be something you live by.
I couldn't think of anything that anyone's ever told me.
No one's had good advice.
The best piece of advice I give to my students and to anyone who wants to think about this field is, it's a lifestyle. I don't like calling it a career. It's a lifestyle if you really get into it. Inevitably you're going to live out of your car. Guaranteed that if you're doing this work, you're going to you need to have a good car that you can live in. At some point, everyone I know has lived in their vehicle for a period of time. You need to just embrace, not having for a period of time, just the traditional 9 to 5, warm bed every night. And, you need to embrace the idea that, especially for young folks, that relationships are super hard if you're working in this field, until a point where you can really kind of establish your foundation somewhere and kind of set up home. And so that's what I would say. It's like, it's a lifestyle that you have to want to enjoy, both the good and the bad of it, yeah, not always sleeping in a comfortable bed, odd hours, long days. You might have days where it's just kind of a few hours doing something, and then you might have days which you're working 24 hours and you just have to kind of push through and get through whatever you're doing. Um, and so the lifestyle of um, that itinerant lifestyle of a lot of travel, moving places, getting to see a lot of places, and meeting really great people. You have to kind of want to enjoy that and experience that to kind of do it. We've all done it. I did it when I was in my 20s and got through it, and was lucky enough to be able to set up a more traditional career path, but still get to be in the outdoors.